Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm Carrie Swift with the Maryland Building Industry Association. We are proud to bring to you today a webinar hosted by and presented by Offit Advisors. We have Ben Offit, Laura Sendelhofer, and May Young. And I'm going to toss it over to Ben. We really appreciate you guys doing this. They're going to be talking about how to get through the current situation with COVID in terms of the financial point of view. Our webinars are presented and sponsored by O'Neill Interactive, and we're grateful to them as well. If you can see at the bottom, there is a question and answer and a chat function. At the end of the presentation, you will have a question and answer period. Feel free to put your questions down there, and we'll make sure to get everything that you need answered. All right, Ben, I'm going to toss it over to you.
All right, thank you. All right, thanks everybody for being here. Very unique circumstances right now, and I'm glad we're able to do this webinar and try to add some guidance and wisdom during this time for you and your business. And if there's any questions you have during this time, during the webinar, feel free to chat in the chat box. We can take the questions as they come, but we'll also have questions at the end. So we really just want this to be as helpful as possible for everybody here today. So our presentation is going to be about a half an hour, 30 minutes. And then, like I said, we'll leave Q&A for 15 minutes or so at the end. During this time, what we'll discuss is some business strategy to withstand this healthcare crisis. And we'll discuss some of the federal and state relief programs that are out there. We'll talk about some tax strategy, insurance planning strategy, and some personal financial planning strategy during this time as well. Okay, so we have a lot to cover, and we really want this to be as informative as possible. And I think if you stay through to the end, you'll find that there's a lot of really good nuggets and really good information here for you. So hopefully you walk away with one or two things that are helpful. And if you want to contact us further after this, feel free to do so. All right. So this is a quote that I thought just might be relevant to what we're all going through. So this is from Helen Keller, and it says, "Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of overcoming it." So we're in a tough period right now, but I do believe that all of us will overcome this. And I believe that our country and our world is very resilient. And I have no doubt that we can overcome this, just like Helen Keller overcame many of the challenges that she had in her life. And then this is one other inspirational quote that I thought might be helpful. It says, "In chaos, we find our strength. In our strength, we find our courage. In our courage, we find our heart. And in our heart, we find our way." And that was by Margot Potter. All right. So, where are we? So this is an interesting statistic from Charles Schwab. And in February of 2020, what it was saying is about 59% of Americans said they were unable to withstand an emergency because they had a lack of an emergency fund, and they really were living paycheck to paycheck. And this is a statistic we've seen in personal finance for many, many years. It's a common issue in personal finance, but what we're finding is that a lot of small businesses have the same issue, and that's being exposed right now where revenues are down in this current economic climate. And this is really a problem that we must solve. So hopefully some of the things we go over here today can help solve that. So you need to keep your business going. That's really the main priority right now. You need to survive this period. And that's really what this is about. This is a period of time. This is not going to be permanent, but you need to get through this period to the other side when there's more relief here. So we're going to talk about some defense right now. You need to rebuild your financial foundation, your balance sheet for your company, your cash flow. You need to make sure that's stable to get through this. You need to make sure that your employees are going to stay on board if you can keep them. But if you can't keep them, you need to trim the fat. You need to trim the excess employees that you don't necessarily need right now. You also need to think about doing cash flow projections, assuming that this current climate is going to persist for some time, because it could persist another 2 to 3 months. So you need to think, if things are exactly the same as they are right now, 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road, are we going to be okay business-wise? You need to do some assumptions there. but some cash flow projections could be very helpful to you. And then we would encourage you to take advantage of the federal and state stimulus packages that we'll go over in a moment, and then also take advantage of some tax planning opportunities that are available to you as well. So this is a picture of Ray Lewis. We talked about defense, and I think he's one of the greatest defensive players and leaders of all time. So hopefully you can take that mindset for you and your organization right now, the same that he did for the Ravens for so many years. All right, so the first tip that we're gonna go over to keep your business going on the defensive side is the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, you might have heard about this already. I hope you have by now. But this is extremely important right now. This is a loan for your business up to the lesser of $10 million or 2.5 times the average monthly payroll costs in the prior 12 months of the loan application. And then this can be used for 8 weeks of payroll costs, benefits, mortgages, rent payments, and utilities. And the big kicker here is that if you obtain the funds and then these funds are used to help you maintain your employee base and your salary levels, those funds will be forgiven. And that's a huge bonus to you and your business. If any amount is not forgiven, it's paid back at 1% interest over 2 years. So that's a pretty generous interest rate. The payments could be high because it's only 2 years to pay it back. But all things considered, this is probably the #1 program you need to be considering for your business right now. So small businesses and sole proprietorships, their window to get this program started last Friday, and then starting today, April 10th, independent contractors and self-employed individuals can apply. We would encourage you to apply as soon as possible because there's no clear answer as to how long these funds will last. While there was a big stimulus package here, the sooner the better that you can obtain these funds for you and your business, the better shape that you'll be in. And you want to make sure that you can do this through your bank that you have a business relationship with. And hopefully they're an SBA lender, because if they're not an SBA lender, they can't do this program. So make sure that your bank is an SBA lender, and if not, work to find one as soon as possible, okay? Number 2, the Emergency Paid Leave Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So you need to be aware of this for your employee base. So you might need to provide your employees up to 2 weeks of paid sick leave, up to $5,110 total dollars. If they're quarantined or sick from COVID-19, you might need to provide up to $2,000 if they're caring for someone with COVID-19. And then you might need to provide up to 12 weeks of paid sick leave and up to $12,000 for someone who's caring for a child while their daycare or school is closed. So you need to be mindful of that for you and your employee base. The second thing relating to your employee base is that if you do need to lay off employees, know that they can get $600 per week from the federal government in addition to unemployment from the state. Okay, so that's a pretty generous benefit from the government right now if you do need to lay off employees. This is also for an additional 13 weeks as opposed to regular unemployment. So this has been extended further. Number 4, the SBA disaster loan. So this provides economic relief to businesses that are currently experiencing a temporary loss of revenue. Business owners can borrow up to $2 million to be paid back at 3.75% and 2.75% for nonprofits. And you can pay this back over 30 years. Additionally, in addition to this, there's a $10,000 grant that you can get immediately, and then that does not have to be paid back. That's also part of the SBA loan. If you do get that $10,000 advance, I believe that is offset from your PPP loan if you do intend to apply for both of those. So this is the Maryland Relief Fund. Unfortunately, this went away on Tuesday evening. So hopefully you got this application in before it expired. But this provides a grant up to $10,000, not to exceed 3 months worth of cash operating expenses to help you pay payroll, rent, mortgage payments, utility expenses. And again, this is a grant, not a loan. So this also does not need to be paid back. And then you also could get a loan up to $50,000, not to exceed 3 months of cash operating expenses. Very generous terms here. 0% for the first 12 months, and then 2% for the remaining 36 months. All right, so now we're going to transition into some tax strategies. We're going to bring on Mei Jiang, who is a CPA and CFP with our firm and has a lot of expertise around all of these tax planning strategies and a lot of these stimulus package programs. And she's going to talk to you about some of these.
What we deal with
May, can you speak up a little bit? We can't hear you very well.
Okay. So now the tax extension for filing for 2019 has been automatically extended to July 15th, and so is the tax payment. Additional filing extension, you can request it for October 15th.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. We have some tax credit for employers. 50% of the 2020 payroll tax can be delayed until 2021, and other 50 can be delayed until 2022. So a lot of employees are working from home right now. There is a tax benefit for home office deduction. Some of the expenses include mortgage interest, insurance, utilities, repairs, and depreciation. So this is another tax credit for retaining your employees during this difficult time. There's credit for employment tax, 50% of up to $10,000 of wage for each employee is qualified. For companies with more than 100 employees, the qualified wages are for those employees not working. For companies with less than 100 employees, all wages qualify for credit.
All right, thank you, May. Good job with that. And let us know if you have any particular questions in response to any of those opportunities. Now we're going to transition into some business strategies. All right. So in addition to the stimulus packages, here's some things you should be thinking about as a business owner. You should be hoarding cash. What we mean by that is you want to reduce your expenditures right now in anticipation of delayed revenues now and over the next few months and potentially the rest of the year. So you want to maintain cash. Cash is king right now. Number 12, reduce expenses. That coincides with hoarding cash, but don't undertake any major capital expenses at this time that you don't necessarily need to. So curtail any unnecessary business or personal spending during this time. Number 13, you might want to consider reducing owner draws and discretionary bonuses to your team temporarily, just to maintain positive cash flow and positive cash reserves for your business. Number 14, if you have payments to vendors that you could consider delaying, you might want to consider that. So if you've got recurring payments, recurring agreements with vendors, talk to them. They might be in a position to negotiate with you right now and have some more leniency where they could delay some of these payments, including a potential rent abatement for your lease. So just be mindful of that and consider your expenditures for your business and see if there's any of them that can be renegotiated or delayed if you need to. Number 15, consider obtaining a business line of credit right now. If you don't already have one, you should have one. And then also potentially a home equity line of credit to shore up cash reserves. So you want to have access to capital, access to liquidity, should you really need it. And now is the time when you might need it. So you want to have access to these things. Number 16, this coincides with some of what I said earlier, but it's good to review current contracts, leases, lines of credit, and renegotiate. Avoid long-term renewals if possible. Okay, so just be mindful of your current and your upcoming agreements and expenditures and seeing if you can review those for more favorable terms. All right, now we're going to transition into some insurance planning questions. We're going to bring on Laura Sendeldorfer, who is a financial advisor and our insurance specialist, and she's going to talk to you about some of these things.
All right, I'll be answering a few questions, insurance planning questions we've received over the last couple of weeks, starting with health insurance. Can you or your employees purchase health insurance right now? yes, Maryland actually extended the enrollment period until June 15th. So if you do not have health insurance, you can purchase it on the exchange. Another question we've got is about life insurance. Does life insurance pay out if you die because of the coronavirus? The answer is also yes. If you die because if you were truthful and you had your insurance policy for at least 2 years, then it will definitely pay out. Also, if you had it for less than 2 years and were truthful, it should pay out as well. Next, we'll go into the business policies, business owner policies. Ben?
Yep. Does the next slide show business interruption insurance?
Yeah, it's showing now. Okay. Yeah, so business interruption insurance is generally a part of your regular business owner's policy. However, it does not cover you due to Corona because in order to be covered under business interruption, you need to have a physical loss to your property, and that is not the case. However, next we'll talk about what will actually cover you, and that is event cancellation insurance. If that is not part of a regular business owner's policy, however, if you do have the endorsement or an extra policy for that, that will cover you for any events that you had to postpone or cancel, for events that you had less attendance on, and for events that you had to end early. Lastly, for our builders here, we wanted to answer the question, how does the coronavirus affect my builder's risk insurance policy? A lot of carriers have let us know that they will not cancel policies if the premium payment is not received, and also that they are working with the builders to extend the policies if your project was delayed due to the corona pandemic. And that actually counts for a lot of auto insurance and business auto insurance policies as well. We also had a few companies that are giving refunds right now because there's less vehicles on the streets. So definitely check with your carrier on that.
All right, great job, Laura. All right, so we've talked about a lot of defensive strategies. Now we're going to shift to some offensive strategies. So this is Tom Brady, perhaps the greatest offensive player in football history, perhaps the greatest player in general of all time, and now he's actually a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. But you got to keep your business going, like we said, on defense, but now you also have to be offensive, okay? So you want to keep the pedal down on business development. If you can. Now is not the time to stop doing business development. You want to focus on what you can control. So what we mean by that is maybe you could brainstorm some smart activities, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. So focus on what you can control. So for example, maybe you could schedule 2 web meetings a day with a prospect or a client or a referral partner. Or maybe you could set up a webinar for your constituents or your clients, something like this. But doing something to stay out there, stay focused on communicating with your clients, your prospects, and just doing some positive activity that you can control that will generate business either now or a few months down the road from now. Number 19, consider mergers and acquisitions of other companies and firms who might not be as strong as you are. So we're talking to you about what you can do to make your company strong right now, but there's other companies that might not be in as good of a position as you are. Maybe they could benefit from being merged into your firm or acquired by your firm. So consider those opportunities. And number 20, leverage technology. So right now, technology is more important than ever. We're all doing this from our houses right now. And, you need to open up the floodgates of technology to continue to communicate with your prospects, your clients, your team. Get the word out that you're open for business, that you're doing business, but you've got modified procedures to protect your team and your company. You can leverage, virtual lunch meetings, virtual happy hours, just as if you would do it in person, but just do it on a virtual basis. All right. So we've talked about a lot of business strategies. Now we're going to close with some personal financial strategies for you personally and your family. So with some of the stimulus packages for business, there are also some personal stimulus packages. So there's $1,200 for individuals and then $2,400 for couples that are going to be sent out, hopefully today or maybe early next week, and then $500 for every child based on 2019 tax returns for those who filed them and 2018 information as well. There's a phase out of income above $75,000 in income for individuals and $150,000 for couples, going away completely at $99,000 for individuals and $198,000 for couples. There's also no RMDs or required minimum distributions in 2020. So this is a benefit to you if you are required to take distributions out of your retirement accounts or inherited IRAs, for example, or 401k plans. That is not required this year. So you can keep that money in there instead of taking it out while the market is lower in value. Retirement plans, if you have a retirement account, you can take up to $100,000 in coronavirus related distributions from your retirement plans without being subject to the 10% typical penalty for early distributions. And then the income tax that would still be assessed on that can be repaid over 3 years instead of being due immediately. And then also, if you pay back the distribution within 3 years, the amount that you took out, there is no tax on that. For student loan payments, if you have student loans, federal student loans, these are suspended until September 30th at 0% interest, very generous. If you're a borrower that's pursuing public student loan forgiveness, then these 6 months will still be eligible for that forgiveness. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the financial markets. So I know if you are an investor right now, your portfolio is probably down. You're in the same boat as everybody. And our belief is that predominantly this is a healthcare crisis with very serious financial side effects. So we believe that once there's a deceleration in people being affected by the virus, or if it slows, or if we can find out that it's seasonal, or there's it's more under control, we believe that the economy and the markets will turn for the better once that happens. So again, this is predominantly driven by the healthcare issue. The economy was strong before this happened. We believe it'll be strong once again once this issue subsides. With that in mind, if you are an investor, a long-term investor, don't go to cash and wait it out. That is extremely difficult to navigate. And no one really ever navigates the markets correctly by going to cash and then getting back in at the right time. So don't do that. This is a chart that just illustrates that point. So this is showing the growth of $10,000 invested in 1980, 40 years ago, believe it or not. And it's showing the growth of that for somebody who was invested that whole time. That 10,000 grew to be 708,000 versus someone that just missed 5 of those best days. Only grew to be 458,000. That's about a $250,000 swing just by missing 5 of those best days. So the reason we say stay invested is because you don't want to miss one of those really up days, and the market moves very fast. So chances are if you try to get back in later, you'll have missed some of those appreciated days, some of those good days, and you're getting back in at higher prices. So stay invested the whole time. 22. Consider a Roth IRA conversion. So if you have some pre-tax dollars like an IRA or a 401k, this could be a time to consider converting that to a Roth IRA account. The reason being is that if you do that, you'll pay the tax now, but you're paying it at a lower value because the market is down. So therefore, when you convert that account, you're converting it at a lower overall value, which means a lower overall tax payment. And then if you leave that invested in the Roth, you'll never pay tax on that again. So consider that strategy. 23, tax loss harvesting. If you have non-retirement account dollars, you might want to consider selling out of some of your holdings that might have taxable losses, and you could use that to offset some of the gains in your portfolio. And then what you can do is you can immediately buy back in to a similar security, but not exactly the same. And then therefore you're capturing that loss intentionally, and then you're still staying invested in the market. So it's a tax strategy. And then if you do have considerable gains, let's say in one single stock, or you've got a large concentration in a single stock, this could be a good time to divest of that, because chances are that value is lower. And then therefore, if you sell out of that, you're selling out of it at lower values, thus lower taxable gains. Consider rebalancing your portfolio. Okay, so the market shifts when there's market volatility. You might want to sell what may be higher than usual in your portfolio and maybe buy back into what's lower. So for example, if you had a portfolio that was designed to be 80% stocks and 20% bonds, and let's say, for example, that bonds, now represent a higher portion of your portfolio because they were less volatile than stocks. Let's say that 80% of equities that you had is now 62%. Well, then that's now out of alignment. So you might want to sell out of some of your bond holdings and then reposition those back into equities, and you're buying back at lower prices. You're rebalancing the portfolio proactively. Number 25, contribute and invest more now if you have the cash to do it and your income is stable. With market values being lower now than they were a few weeks ago or a month ago, this is a buying opportunity to buy securities and get into the market on sale. So who doesn't like to buy things on sale? Imagine a $1 million house that you'd like to buy that's on sale for $750. That's a discount. So consider that if you have the means to do so. And then appreciate the value of being diversified. So over the recent years, the S&P 500 has done very well, and tech stocks have done very well. They've been the top performing asset classes. And people would say there's no need to own other asset classes besides that. But you can see in volatile times, there's value in having a diversified portfolio with other asset classes, other aspects to your portfolio that can operate differently than just one asset class. Number 26, we're almost done here, everybody. Have some non-market correlated assets. What I mean by that is that have some assets in your portfolio that are not tied to the stock market, so that when the market goes down, you have some assets you can draw from that are not depressed in value. So an example of that could be bonds, could be cash values in life insurance policies, could be annuities, could be home equity lines of credit, could be home equity conversion mortgages. But the idea is you want to have a plan for when there's market volatility to weather the storm with your income strategy and your retirement strategy. Number 27, refinance your debt. So the Federal Reserve has recently cut rates even further, and they're lower now than they already were. So this could be a good time to refinance student loans or credit cards or your house or business lines. So consider that. Final thoughts. Okay, we're wrapping up here, and then we'll open it up for some questions if there are any. Have patience. We're all in this together. So there's nothing you or I can necessarily do on a single day-to-day basis except to try to wait this out and be safe and be smart about it. A positive to this is that our country is coming together. We're supporting one another. And then, look on the bright side. If you are home with your family and your loved ones, this is valuable time to spend with them and enjoy this time with them. So those are our final thoughts. Hopefully some of this was helpful to you, whether it was some business strategy or stimulus package strategy or tax strategy or insurance planning or personal financial planning. This is really what we try to help businesses with and families. So if you have any further questions about this, we could take some of those questions here today, but you can also follow up with us. The best way to get in touch with us would either be calling our phone number below, 410-600-PLAN, or visit our website at Offit Advisors. And yeah, I think we'll open up to questions, Carrie or Chris, if there are any.
So Ben, we did get a question from Vishal, and I'll read it to you. I've applied for PPP, EIDL, and Maryland grants and loans on the first day available, but haven't heard back on any meaningful updates. Have any of your clients had success yet?
No, I don't believe so. I don't think anybody's heard back yet, but that could change as soon as today. And hopefully more in the coming weeks. So I think that there was a tremendous amount of demand with all these programs, and there were tons of people signing up. And I think that the processes are probably overwhelmed right now, but I think they're probably doing the best that they can. And hopefully all of us start to hear back very soon because, this capital is needed. Good question, Vishal.
Okay, Ben, so it looks like we have another one. I don't have a name for the person, but they said, first of all, thank you, Ben. One of the topics being debated right now and in the crosshairs is what is structural damage? If there is a positive COVID-19 case in your building and they close the building, does this count as structural? For example, past instances have been asbestos and other cases where there wasn't any structural damage per se, but the insurance companies were still held liable.
Laura, do you want to touch on that if you have an answer to that?
Sure, absolutely. Yes. The issue here is that the insurance companies think it's very easy to clean it, like you just disinfect everything, and technically the issue is resolved, except for obviously, once you would let people in again, you could be exposed again, but it's not technically damage to the building. So that's why it's not covered. I hope that helps.
Good answer.
Okay, so I have another one. Again, anonymous. I have heard that EIDL loans are being cut back to $1,000 per person up to 10 people instead of the $10,000 upfront loan.
Have you heard anything on that, May? Okay, I've not heard that either.
Yeah.
So we could do a double check on that, and then if you want to send in your email or your phone, we can follow up with you on that. But we have not heard of that. We can double check on that.
Thanks, Ben. Okay. So Denise Johnson just said, we just heard today that the bank has all of our information for our loan application for the PPP, but nothing further. We applied on Saturday. So I guess that wasn't a question, more of an update, right? Thank you, Denise.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are in that boat. I think that everyone has kind of scrambled to get these applications in, and hopefully your bank can process it as soon as they can. But like I said, there's a lot of applications out there, so they're going to do the best that they can. But you still have time to apply. So whether you're, a corporation or a business owner or independent contractor, the sooner the better.
So and people are sending in their updates. So this is great, Ben, for you probably to know where people stand out there. But someone else just wrote, I have a PPP loan approval number and note signed with John Marshall Bank pending funds. Several of my builder associates in other parts of the country are approved as well.
Great. When did you get that? That's great news.
Yeah, they can, maybe they'll let us know that. In the meantime,
first I've heard. That's great news.
Awesome. So another person has a question. Will banks be open to approving LOCs given the enormous stress on them, the economy and marketplace?
I think that's probably a per bank question. We are not a bank, so we can't answer that for them. But I think that their priority right now, from my understanding, is processing these PPP loans. But I think that they are still open for other types of business. And I think that they do want to help clients with that as soon as they can. So I would reach out to your business bank, your individual bank, or a bank you've got a good relationship with, and ask them that question. And if they don't give you the answer that you like or that you want to hear, there's 10 other bankers out there that you can reach out to. If you need any introductions to ones that we've got good relationships with, we're happy to provide those to you. But, sometimes other bankers or other banks are going to have different responses to that than others. So, keep going until you find the one that gives you the answer that you want.
Okay. Any more questions? I think Ben's willing to answer anything. So shoot him some questions. And while we're waiting, if any, for some more questions, the person before that was talking about having the loan go through, he said it was yesterday, and that other friends out west got theirs like 2 or 3 days ago.
Wow, that's great.
All right. Any further words, May, Ben, and Laura?
I would just say that, hopefully some of this was helpful. Again, like we said, today the PPP loan opens up for independent contractors. So take advantage of that. We are doing consultations around this specifically for you and your business. If you do any guidance on a more detailed basis around this, and enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend, enjoy this time, and yeah, let us know if you have any questions. And May or Laura, if there's anything you guys want to add.
Yeah, we welcome follow-up questions or any assistance they can provide. That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, if you have any other questions about your insurance policies, feel free to send them to us. We'll take a look at them. Other than that, contact the carrier. Every policy is written a little bit differently, but this was just general guidelines for you on what would be covered.
Well, thank you guys so much. I think this is super valuable, not only just to the residential building industry, but also to anybody that would tune in to this webinar. It was on a personal level and a business level, really, really valuable. So thank you guys so much. Everybody, we did record this. We will have it available on our website in the next couple of days, marylandbuilders.org. You can also go there for a number of resources related to coronavirus, and all upcoming webinars and past webinars are there. Also, just for everyone on this call, we are next Thursday doing a safety stand down for the industry. Please go to our website and find out more information about that. Safety on the job site is a huge priority for us right now, and all of your participation and sharing this and getting the word out there would be super helpful. If nobody has anything else today, I think I am going to stop the recording. Everybody have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Bye.
Bye.